Good morning. Thank you guys for coming. My name is Rachel Bland, so I am one of the dietitians at JTA Wellness, and we're really happy to be partnering with y'all. I really honestly didn't know much about Thrive Well, and so I was reading up on this community and this organization. It's really amazing, and I know have a really vested interest in your health, so I do appreciate y'all joining me today to learn more about nutrition. I'm sure y'all know a lot already, but hopefully we learn something new. And we're going to be covering a lot of the trending diets that are kind of popular these days. Some that might be good, maybe some that aren't so good. So we'll kind of go through some of the diet trends. So that's the topic for today. And before we kind of go into it, I just wanted to clarify a little something. When we hear the term diet, right, we can interpret it in really one of two ways. So diet can certainly mean kind of a more restrictive eating pattern that you're following, or a set of diet rules that you're following to maybe improve your health, or of course more commonly to lose weight, right? But the term diet can also just simply mean what you eat, right? So whether you're following a set of rules or patterns or not. So with that definition, really, every living, breathing person is essentially on a diet, right? Because it just really, pure definition of that just really means what we eat, right? So we're all on a diet. Actually, us dietitians, we don't really like the fact that the term diet is in our credential, because it really, when people hear diet, they more often think of this strict thing they're doing, a set of rules. And that's not really what we dietitians are about. We're more about moderation, balanced, sustainable eating that's good for your health in the long run, right? But anyway, so let's go ahead and dive in. And I wanted to just kind of start with a little bit of a history on dieting, because it's not new. It's been around. In fact, extreme restrictive dieting has actually been around since the 1800s. And for example, this guy, Lord Bryan, he was someone that first popularized dieting and really brought to light how celebrities lose weight. And he made popular the apple cider vinegar diet, where you really just mix apple cider vinegar with water and to shed weight. And led to a lot of vomiting and diarrhea for a lot of people. So it wasn't great. And then later on, back when cigarettes could be advertised like crazy, they would kind of allude to how cigarettes can suppress your appetite and help you lose weight. And then we had crazy things like the cabbage soup diet, right? The grapefruit diet, some of those other things you might have heard of. And then fast forward all the way through 1960s through the 90s, we saw a lot more diets emerge, especially those that kind of really reduced fat intake. The low-fat diet was really popular. Fat-free this, fat-free that. And then, of course, meal replacement shakes, Slim Fast Atkins, all those types of things that we saw. And then kind of here more recent years in the 2000s, lots of different diets have come out, with all sorts of celebrity endorsements, also weight loss medications, supplements, and things like that, such as HCG diet. Has anyone heard of the HCG? It's you go on a very extreme low-calorie diet. There's a structure to it, but you also inject yourself with this hormone that's really high in women that are pregnant, but the hormone's supposed to help you shed the weight. And I actually had a friend that did this, and it was dangerous, and she's kind of suffering from a few health effects from it. So crazy stuff. And here's just even more, right? Just an alphabetical list of all the different diets we've seen in recent years. Dieting's not new, right? It's been around, but certainly in more recent years, the market for weight loss dieting has really exploded exponentially, right? Because we've got the internet and social media, more, endorsements and social media influencers and all the things, right? But also because, unfortunately, obesity has really risen in our population, not just in our country, but really all over the world. So if you're anything like our friend Tina here on the slide, you might sometimes feel overwhelmed with just kind of all the information out there regarding different diets and what's good, what's bad, so on and so forth. So if you're looking to kind of change your diet or adopt a diet or follow kind of a different type of dietary pattern for yourself, you really want to ask yourself these questions, the diet ABCs, as they're called. So ask yourself, is this diet going to be appropriate for you? Your specific needs, health conditions, your specific health goals. Is it A, appropriate for you? Is it B, balanced with all of the nutrients that your body requires? And then is it C, continuous, which is really key, right? Is this going to be sustainable for not just weeks and months, but years to come, or really the rest of your life, right? So yeah, if you can answer yes to all these, then great, give it a try. But really, if you answer no to any one of these, it's probably not a good option, and you should kind of consider other options for yourself. So the ABCs, that's kind of a fun way to ask yourself those good questions. Okay, so I'm not going to cover all the diets out there. I mean, we would be here all day, right? It'd be crazy. So we're just going to kind of cover some of the top trending diets here as of late. And then, so I'm just going to kind of like briefly discuss the diet. We're not going to go into a whole lot of detail. And then we'll definitely talk about some pros and some cons to consider for each one. So on the docket today, I'm going to talk a little bit about juice cleanses. We'll definitely talk about the ketogenic diet, the intermittent fasting trend, Noom, Weight Watchers, flexitarian diet, DASH diet, and Mediterranean diet. So we have a lot of good ones to talk about today. Okay, so starting with juicing or juice cleanses. I feel like juicing isn't as popular as right now as it has been before, but I mean, it's still around and a lot of people still feel it's very healthy. And there's been different types of juice cleanses or juicing protocols out there that have been promoted, but typically juice cleansing involves roughly 3 to 7 days worth of consuming really just juice, fresh juice from a mix of fruits and vegetables. So there's little to no solid foods, and it's really marketed as a way to help you detox or rid your body of toxins. A lot of people too feel like this is a good kickstart to them getting on their health wagon, right? They just want to like cleanse themselves, and juices are something that people try to do with that or do that, right? So that's basically what juicing is, right? So what are some good things about it? I mean, certainly you're getting fruits and vegetables, right? It might help you make the transition to some healthier habits by eating less junk and, again, more fruits and vegetables there. You might start to feel less bloated, and you might experience some temporary weight loss, but it's likely just kind of a lot of water weight because it's just very low in calories overall. On the other hand, it's on the con side. It can be really expensive. I don't know if y'all have ever seen or been to like a juice bar, a juice place, or even at grocery stores and stuff. The fresh pressed juices are so expensive. And then you can try and do it on your own, but that is like a chore, such a chore to do. I mean, it's great. All the power to people who try to do stuff like that, but it does take a lot of time, effort, money. The claims of it helping you detox, it's not really all that science-based. So our body, will naturally detoxify itself with our liver and kidneys. So our liver will kind of break down, some toxic substances. Our kidneys will excrete them. So, if you've got a good, healthy liver and healthy working kidneys, there's really no reason that you need to do anything extra to help your body detox. So when we extract the juice from fruits and veggies, we do extract a lot of the vitamins and nutrients, but what we leave behind is, what do we leave behind? The fiber, right? Exactly. And you can even, if you've ever juiced, you can see the fibers left behind. And so fiber is important, right? Fiber helps us keep us full. When you're consuming just the juice, you're getting more of the the sugars from the fruits and vegetables. So that could lead to some spikes in your blood sugar and things like that. What else? So it's very low in calories. You're not getting any protein, right? It's definitely not balanced meals. And so just the nature of it being very low calorie, you might potentially have some muscle breakdown, which we don't want. We want to maintain our muscle mass for good metabolic health. And then it might hurt your stomach, cause some GI distress and irritability. So
I turned orange. My
Did you really? Oh my gosh. Yeah, and that totally can happen. It's crazy. It's that beta carotene that makes it orange. So yeah, and some other nutrients too. That's interesting though. I have heard of people turning colors. It's crazy. Okay, so that's juice. A little bit on juicing. Yeah. So anyone else done juicing before, or purchased some crazy blends of different things? Yeah.
Huge machine, and you would do beets and everything.
Yes.
Your tea would be red.
The beets can stain your skin and your clothes. It's messy. It's definitely messy.
Full of fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Yeah. Well, and fruits and vegetables, I mean, food costs are really high. And so even just to be able to yield the amount of juice you need a lot of fruits and vegetables, right, to get that. So yeah, it can be expensive. Okay, so let's talk ketogenic diets. Everybody's heard of this, right, by now, I feel like, right? So what is it? Yeah, so keto for short, ketogenic. It's definitely been really popular in recent years. I feel like the popularity's kind of come down, but it's, still out there. Low carb eating, keto style, definitely still pretty prevalent. But it actually wasn't originally made for weight loss. It was originally developed back in the 1920s as a therapeutic diet for children with epilepsy. So fun fact, you probably didn't know that. And we'll talk about why. But essentially, it's a really high-fat diet. Okay, so about 80% of calories to fat or even more, moderate protein, and then, of course, very, very low carb. And so I see a lot of people trying to do this, and they don't really realize that this is a very high-fat diet, and people trying to do this might be restricting the carbs, but they actually end up eating like just more protein and really more protein than what this diet really lays out, and potentially not enough fat, especially potentially not the right kind of fats. But essentially, when you deprive your body of carbs, we produce more of these ketone bodies. And these ketones start to become our body's preferred fuel source, more so over glucose and carbohydrates. And so when you get all these, the right level of ketones in your bloodstream, you are said to be in a state of ketosis. So the restriction of carbs to be able to really get successfully into ketosis can really vary between people, but it's going to be somewhere between less than 20 to 50 grams of carb a day. So pretty low in carbohydrates. This is just a little visual of what a food pyramid might look like for following a keto diet. So lots of fat. I mean, vegetables, non-starchy vegetables are very low carb, so those can be included. And then dairy, regular milk is actually pretty high in carbohydrates and natural sugars. So the dairy foods that could be included would be like sour cream and cream cheese and butter and full fat cheeses and yogurts and stuff like that. But
It would be fun for a while.
I know, yeah, all that fat, all that cheese, all that bacon. But yeah, it can end up being really high in saturated fat, right? Which we'll talk about. So there are some good things about this though. So it really has helped some people that do have the epilepsy. So when they get into a state of ketosis, it's been shown that that can help reduce their seizures. So it's definitely an established therapeutic diet for that population, which is nice. For people with diabetes, it has shown to potentially help with blood sugar control, right? Because you're really restricting carbs. But a lot of the studies are more short-term. So we don't have a lot of long-term studies on the keto for diabetes. And then it can definitely lead to some weight loss. And it might lead to some fat loss, right? But also a lot of this, again, because sometimes it's so rapid, it's water weight, and also losing some of the glycogen stores in your muscles. So some good things. Long term, though, really not the best diet for the long term because it's very, very restrictive. Usually people can only sustain it for a few weeks or months. And then, of course, you can lose some weight, but as you get off the diet and add carbs back into your life, weight can quickly kind of come back. And so keto dieting can really lead to more of that yo-yo dieting where, you're kind of yo-yoing with your weight and how you eat and, going back and forth between losing weight and gaining it and losing and gaining is definitely not good for our health, actually. Can lead to some increased risks. Okay, so I just said saturated fat, right? So it could potentially be very high in that saturated fat. When you know too much saturated fat can raise cholesterol levels, put you at risk for heart disease, stroke, things like that. It's also, lower in fruits and vegetables and even starches that do supply us with a lot of nutrients we need. So potentially some nutrient deficiencies. And then there's some really immediate side effects. Have y'all heard of the keto flu type thing? No. Well, when people start trying to really do keto, and as they're transitioning into that state of ketosis, you kind of can get some imbalances in your electrolytes and stuff like that, which can make you feel like you have the flu. You can feel dizzy, fatigued, headaches, and things like that. And then people can get constipated, right? Because you don't have a whole lot of fiber in your diet potentially, and lots of fat. And we know how important certain carbohydrates and fiber are for our gut health and for helping us go to the bathroom. Also, there's a risk of kidney stones, which I didn't really know that. But nonetheless, I mean, it's still pretty popular, right? I actually didn't know about this until I was reading a little bit more, but there was a documentary on Netflix called The Magic Pill. Have anyone heard of that documentary? Well, it's one that's really touting all the benefits of more of a keto diet or using fat for fuel. But still, we're seeing a lot of the research to support these health claims are just more short term. They're more preliminary or premature. We still need more research. And they've been in like smaller human populations or even just in rats, right? So we still need some more data, and we still know there's a lot of things that aren't good about it. So definitely lots to consider with the keto diet. Any questions, comments about that before we move on to the next one? Okay, intermittent fasting. This one's definitely really popular right now, right? But fasting isn't new. Fasting's been around for thousands of years, right? And a lot of different cultures for a lot of different reasons, religious reasons, but also health reasons and things like that. Or just because food wasn't around, right? Just naturally people kind of had to fast. But nonetheless, now intermittent fasting, it's kind of a broad term to kind of just describe a way of eating to where you eat within restricted windows of time, and then you just kind of don't eat, right, for certain times. So certain days, certain time frames. So there's three versions I wanted to talk about. One of them being the 5-2 day method. So basically you just eat normally for 5 days and then 2 days you fast. This 16-8, this is the most popular. So you essentially just eat all your normal meals and snacks only within an 8-hour window of the day, and then you fast for a full 16 hours. So, that might mean that you, stop eating at 6 p.m. and then you don't eat again until 10 a.m. the next day. That would allow for that 16 hours. And then the third one is alternate day fasting. I don't think I could do this. It's you eat, then the next day you don't eat, then you eat, then you don't. I'm like, and then there's a modified alternate day where you eat every day, but the day that you're fasting, you're only eating about 500 calories. So you're just kind of restricting the calories. So it's really been used by a lot of people for different reasons, but a lot of people, of course, just to help them restrict their calories to try to like get that calorie deficit to help them lose weight. And it's thought to potentially help boost or reboot metabolism. Okay, so there are some good things. Like the nice thing about intermittent fasting, you're not restricting yourself at all times. You're only restricting yourself at certain times. And then there's no specific rules on what to eat or what not to eat. So you're not following all these crazy rules. And there has been some studies that shown that they might, intermittent fasting might help with not only weight loss, but potentially insulin sensitivity and even blood pressure. So maybe some good things. But some bad things. Again, we kind of still need some more research. So for it to be more than just kind of a weight loss fad, we really want to see more interventional trials. So there's still not a whole lot of clinical relevance to maybe recommending this, especially for like, again, reasons other than weight loss. And then a lot of the research studies have seen high dropout rates for those that are in the fasting group, right? So that just kind of tells us sustainability, maybe not hard to sustain in the long run. And you'd also want to make sure when you are eating, because again, it really doesn't give you guidance on what to eat, but you need to make sure you're eating a nutrient-dense diet since you're really restricting and fasting frequently so that you're not running the risk of being deficient in anything. Might be difficult, and this is something I really tell people, it really might end up being difficult to help you regulate your appetite and hunger in a healthy way. You might, be more prone to overeating after you've been fasting. But yeah, and if you're considering it, or if anyone considers it, you really should talk to your doctor or your dietitian to make sure it's appropriate for you, because people with certain medical conditions, definitely not appropriate. Diabetes, even certain medications, right, wouldn't be appropriate. Also, if there's any history of like disordered eating or risk of having an eating disorder, definitely not appropriate to be doing any of this. So yeah, intermittent fasting. And then, I meant to say earlier too, the 16/8, the most popular version. One reason it's also popular is because it's for a lot of people, it's basically just skipping breakfast, which a lot of people just really just do anyway. So like, oh, I'm going to do it because I'm already going to doing it. But we still like a good breakfast for most people for a lot of reasons. Okay, so Weight Watchers has been around for a while, and it's still, really popular. They've changed their programming to be just to have more resources for the community. So Weight Watchers, it's not, it's more of a program. It's not a specific type of like dieting, but of course it has its structure to it. It was developed in the 1960s by this lady. She was inviting friends into her house, and they were just talking about how to lose weight. And, fast forward, and now that she has millions of friends, right, that are using those services and products of Weight Watchers. But, emphasizing lifestyle behavioral changes. And you're not counting calories. You are keeping track of your food using the Smart Point system. So every single food and drink has this Smart Points value. The calories kind of give the baseline to the points, and then saturated fat and sugar will drive up the points, and then protein would drive the points down. And then of course your points that you're allotted for the day are based on your height, your age, your weight, and all that. Weight Watchers does encourage variety with food, and no foods are off limits. Let's see what else. And then they do, they've expanded to really encourage healthy physical activity and things like that. So this is really small, but you can see here there's just kind of a visual list of those foods that are deemed as 0-point foods under Weight Watchers. So basically all the fruits and vegetables, and then even some lean proteins and a few other miscellaneous foods there. So Weight Watchers is really good. A lot of people get a lot of good success from it. It's been one of the most well-studied weight loss programs. It's been effective for weight loss, but also treating and preventing diabetes. It's good because it does encourage the nutrient-dense foods, like, again, the fruits, the veggies, the lean proteins, by deeming them as 0 points. So that's encouraging those foods. Limiting the added sugars and the unhealthy fats by making those things higher in points. And then what's really nice about Weight Watchers is the community, the accountability aspect of it, right? So the weekly weigh-ins, the tracking of the food, the group meetings that you can get involved in, so that all that social support. So a lot of good things about it. On the other hand, it's not free, so you got to pay for it, so it could be a little pricey. And then there's not a whole lot of structure around like how to build your meals and snacks, so it's up to the person to figure that out. So that might mean, portions or balance, between meals might be off. And people can like save up their points, right? So that might mean they might end up like saving them up and restricting and then overeating. And that's, not a good way to be eating. And then the point system, it's definitely effective, but, just looking at that list of 0 point foods, there's foods in those lists that have calories, they're not free of calories. So, people wouldn't want to think that they're not eating anything by just eating 0 point foods all day long. They're still getting calories that way. So just to be aware of that. But nonetheless, Weight Watchers is great. I have a lot of my patients that talk to me, but also still use their Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers has a lot of good, I've heard really good recipes and stuff that they put out to their members. And Noom, so Noom's hasn't been around as long as Weight Watchers, but it's similar to Weight Watchers in a lot of ways. Have y'all heard of Noom? A couple of y'all have, yeah. It's really good. It's like I said, similar to Weight Watchers. It's kind of a program you buy into, and it utilizes psychology. It really emphasizes the psychology around our health and wellness, and then it uses a lot of technology, but also one-on-one human coaching to help you focus on your healthy, balanced diet. So they do group food in 3 categories: green, yellow, and red, which I think is like an analogy to like a traffic light kind of. So like go, slow down, stop. So the foods in the green category are the lowest calorie foods and also more nutrient dense. So again, fruits, veggies, whole grains, lean proteins, tofu, shrimp, things like that. Non-fat Greek yogurt, egg whites. There's no calorie limit to the green food, so they just say the more green, the better. So that's kind of the green category. And then the yellow category, these foods are going to have a little more calories to them, maybe a little less nutrients to them. So this is going to be things like lean meats, starches, avocado, popcorn, tortillas, the whole egg, legumes, things like that. And then the red category, these are the most calorie dense and potentially the least nutritious foods. So the red category would include, oils, nuts and seeds and peanut butter and things like that, because there's so much fat in those things. Desserts, frozen entrees, crackers, bagels, things like that. So the purpose of the categories is just to kind of help provide a framework for thinking about how to eat, and rather than following like rigid guidelines. So you just want to stay more in the green category. So there's that little visual there, very simple. Another little visual I found online on the green, yellow, and red categories under Noom. So healthy dairy. So it looks like from here to here, the calories just kind of increase potentially. And then the red's really where we just need to practice moderation. Okay, so again, a lot of good things about Noom. What's really cool, you have access to certified health coaches that you can meet with, and they provide that online support. So with their focus on psychology, they really try to help their clients manage like the stress and anxiety that might be around their food choices, really trying to empower them to make those good, encouraging the nutrient-dense foods. These are all good things. So, they have a pretty good platform to help people meet their personal and wellness goals. So on the other hand, again, like Weight Watchers, it's not free. It's pretty costly, $60 a month. Might be a financial burden for some people. The color labeling is, it's a good guide for some people, but it's still kind of might feel restrictive, even though Noom, doesn't claim to be a restrictive diet. And so, again, potentially not appropriate for someone who really has like an unhealthy relationship with food, or more of that, what we call like black and white thinking of good and bad foods, things like that. And then it does require like really meticulous tracking of your habits, your intake, your exercise, and other things that you keep track of. So that's Noom. Okay, so we have a few more to get to, and the last 3 have been deemed kind of like the top best 3 diets. The U.S. News and World Report back in 2021, they kind of did this assessment. They got a panel of health experts, so dietitians and doctors, and they reviewed like 39 different diets to really try to find what the best ones are based on health and sustainability and things like that. And so this was done back in 2021, but I really still find that this reigns true today. So the top 3 diets. So ranking in at number 3 from this report was the flexitarian diet. Has anyone heard of this term or this diet before? Yeah, not a lot of people have actually heard of it. Flexitarian is just the marriage of 2 words, flexible and vegetarian. And it was coined by this dietitian. Her name is Dawn Blattner, and she wrote this book, The Flexitarian Diet, the mostly vegetarian way to lose weight, be healthier, prevent disease, and add years to your life. So it is mostly vegetarian, but it does include and allow for some meat and fish and poultry. But you're just really encouraged to treat meat more like a garnish to the meal, not the main entree. Let's see. Of course, it's going to emphasize healthy plant foods, fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, nuts, seeds, and even dairy. And then it also limits refined and processed foods. There's really no hard, fast rules to this diet. And what she writes in her book is you can kind of follow it as loosely or as closely as you really would like. So yeah, I suspected maybe y'all hadn't heard of this, but everybody's heard the term probably by now, plant-based, right? We're hearing that term a lot. And so plant-based, definitely plant-based eating, plant-based this, that, definitely really popular these days. And kind of this shift toward less animal protein is again, it's getting really popular, and it's definitely captured by this flexitarian way of eating. So this is another little visual of like what a flexitarian diet food pyramid might look like. So of course, more plant foods at the bottom. It even kind of rates from beginner to expert levels based on how many meatless meals per week that you have. Okay, so lots of good things. So Blattner, that dietitian, she says you don't have to eliminate meat completely, nor I would agree with that. You don't need to eliminate it. It's not inherently bad. But just kind of by reducing it, you can still get all the good benefits that we see with a more vegetarian style diet by eating more of those really good plant foods. So, by doing this, you might be reducing your risk of heart disease, diabetes, cancer, you can lose weight, potentially the lower impact on our environment, right, by eating less meat. And the consumer research is showing that consciousness toward our environment is going to continue to play a big role in food trends, especially as we continue to move forward. So, it's a good diet kind of to follow. On the other hand, if you are really reducing the animal protein, you run the risk of potentially being low in iron and B12. You might need a B12 supplement potentially. And then as you really start reducing your animal protein intake, you're naturally going to just start to eat more carbs. And it can be okay, but it's still going to be about balance, right? So if you struggle with high blood sugar or diabetes, you might need to be careful with that, right? And so, of course, working with a dietitian, we can help you make sure you're meeting all your nutrition needs, and being able to stay full with less protein potentially, and manage blood sugar with the amount of carbs that you might be consuming. And of course, the increase in carbs would hopefully be coming from more fibrous carbs, right? All those healthy plant foods that we want. Okay, so then coming in at number 2 from that report, they ranked the DASH diet as the second best diet. Does anybody know what DASH stands for? Have anyone heard of this either? Yeah. And it's more, I guess some of these are more known by, healthcare providers and things like that. Maybe they don't make the headlines as much as like keto and intermittent fasting, things like that. But DASH stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. So it is definitely a healthy eating plan designed to really help people lower their blood pressure. So it's encouraging all the good foods, fruits, vegetables, low-fat dairy, whole grains, lean meats, beans, seeds, nuts, all these good foods. But it really emphasizes limiting your sodium, right? Because we know sodium has a direct relationship with our blood pressure. But also limiting added sugar, saturated fat, trans fats, meats, alcohol. So there are a couple levels of sodium that you try to hit when you're following a DASH diet. So the lower level of sodium, standard DASH is trying to not exceed 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. And then the lower level of sodium would be trying not to go over 1,500 milligrams of sodium per day. And that 1,500 aligns with the recommended sodium limit for those that do have hypertension or high blood pressure. But the goal here is just to help try to reduce sodium, reduce blood pressure, because a lot of our typical American diet can easily go well over 4,000 milligrams of sodium in a day. Just another little visual here, what a DASH diet might look like. This is kind of visualizing your servings of your food groups within a week or a day. So what are the pros? It's definitely nutritionally sound. It's including all of our healthy foods, just having that more specific emphasis on the sodium. It's not restricting any food groups, and it has had some good research to show proven health benefits. And of course, it's really trying to encourage people to change lifelong habits. Cons, it takes preparation. So if you were if you were eating more convenient foods or eating out more, your sodium is going to go up. So you really, especially to try to hit 1,500 milligrams or less, you kind of have to purchase and prepare most all your foods for the most part, because any processed food or pre-prepared or pre-packaged or pre-made food there's likely sodium there. So it takes potentially more food prep, right? And then maybe lack of social support. There's no DASH community like there is a Weight Watchers or Noom community. Not a lot of cons though. It's a good diet, especially for those with high blood pressure. And then coming in at number 1 is the Mediterranean diet. So the reigning champ. So y'all heard of the Mediterranean? Has any of your doctors mentioned it to you? Yeah. So a lot of people have heard of it now. It's very popular, and it's for a lot of good reason. And again, more and more doctors are, suggesting patients try to follow a type Mediterranean style diet, to help with reducing risk of disease. And it was really inspired by the people living in the Mediterranean region, right? Which is why it has that name. So southern Italy, Greece, that area, there's low levels of chronic disease, really, essentially there. And I think the southern Italy region is one of the, where they found one of the blue zones. Have y'all heard of the blue zones? Where people are living over 100 years old with little to no chronic disease, right? So they really studied, okay, well, what are they eating over there? What are they doing? So really inspired by that region. And then like the DASH diet, it's just more of an eating, pattern, not necessarily like a structured diet. So it's, again, encouraging those good foods, but also specifically including that extra virgin olive oil known to the region, right, which is really good for you. And then some fish, too. So again, it is a little bit more of a plant-based eating pattern that is going to recommend that moderation with some animal foods. So it also encourages eating seasonally and locally and cooking your food with lots of herbs and spices that are really anti-inflammatory. And then, of course, it encourages physical activity, red wine in moderation, and the social eating aspect. So in those cultures, everybody really slows down and sits down and eats together. They're not as on the go. So we have seen research on how that ritualistic or healthy social eating and family meals on a regular basis really is healthy for us for a lot of reasons. That's my favorite part of it.
And that one's been around for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so this is a little visual of like a little Mediterranean diet pyramid. So lots of plant foods, then into some fish and seafood, and then so on. And then here at the bottom, really encouraging that social aspect of family meals, and then of course physical activity. So a lot of good things, right? Emphasizing a lot of good foods. But in addition, they're also emphasizing, along with, the healthy plant foods and things and whole foods, the healthy fats, which we know that we do need healthy fat in our diet. I think we've, back in more like the 80s, fat was kind of demonized, right? And now we're understanding how important healthy fat is for our diet too. But healthy fat really helps keep us satisfied. It fills us up. So we kind of get a little more satisfied and satiated when we do ensure healthy fats included in the meal, along with all the other good foods, right? And what else? Backed up by a lot of research and lots of benefits to show. Weight loss, heart and brain health, cancer prevention, diabetes prevention and control. So it's overall a good, healthy, sound diet. It's hard to kind of come up with some cons to this, but it could potentially be unclear if the specific lifestyle and seasonality of the Mediterranean region is required to reap all those benefits. There's probably other things going on. Their beautiful weather, I don't know. Other things going on over there that are great for them. Maybe the foods over there that are in season are different than the foods that are in season here. But, we do get access to a lot of healthy plant foods year round. So, yeah, Mediterranean. So that kind of concludes the diets I wanted to kind of just, like I said, briefly touch on. So remember, when you're kind of maybe reassessing your diet or wanting to make changes or maybe follow one of these patterns, ask yourself the ABCs, right? Appropriate for you, balanced with your nutrients that you need, and then of course continuous, right? Sustainable for you. So before we wrap up, just wanted to kind of go through the principles that we like to teach and preach here at JTA. So first and foremost, food is our body's fuel, right? We want to make sure we're fueling our body appropriately so we can feel energized, feel our best. But food is also medicine, right? Let thy food be thy medicine. It really has a powerful capacity to heal and nourish our body. So food is fuel, food is medicine. We really work on making sure we stabilize blood sugars with good, consistent eating and balancing carbohydrates with good lean proteins and healthy fats. Again, choosing those good foods we keep talking about, and you're probably tired of me saying lean proteins, fruits, veggies, beans, legumes, nuts, all the good things, right? Limiting, of course, added sugars and processed foods. But we do like to calculate and estimate your calorie needs as best we can, right? Based on your height, your age, your weight, and of course how active you are. And then from there, we can put together an individualized meal plan based on calorie needs, but also based on your life, what your schedule is like, what your preferences are, what your goals are, and so on. So that's a little bit about kind of what we can work on with you. Okay, so we had kind of Tina join and this really is her name, Tina. I found on the PowerPoint, they have all these fun cutout people, and I was like, oh, she's so cute. So her name's Tina. And so based on all the good diet advice we've heard today, let's see what conclusion she's come up with. Eat food, not too much, mostly plants. So insightful, right? So concise. Okay, so this is actually a famous quote by someone named Michael Pollan. Anyone heard of him before? Yeah, he's really well known in the food and nutrition world. He's a really famous journalist and author. He's written a lot of books. But I just really love this quote by him. We hear all this noise and opinions and advice about nutrition, and this kind of just perfectly sums it up in just a few words, right? We need to eat, we can't eat too much, and most of the food should be plant foods, right? Mostly. So yeah, I like that. I wanted to leave y'all with something simple because there's just so much information, right? We don't need to overcomplicate. All right, so yeah, like I was mentioning earlier, I don't know if everyone heard, this was my first time meeting with you guys. I'm sure you've heard a little bit about us. We do have a group of dietitians. We've got more there than the pictures show. We're a growing practice, and of course, dietitians. As dietitians, we can work with you, medical nutrition therapy. We can help you with your goals. So we would love for you to maybe reach out, or if you know any friends or relatives that could use working with a dietitian, we can conveniently meet with you over the phone, through Zoom, of course here at our office. And we are a preferred provider with many health insurances. So yeah, usually our services are usually covered like at 100%, just depends, but we get good coverage for our services. So we would love for you to reach out or share our information with anyone that might want to work with a dietitian. And then of course, here's our contact info. And we're on social media. We try to put out fun stuff. So you can, if y'all are on Facebook or Instagram, you can follow us there. But that's what I have for you guys today. Any questions or anything? Or comments?
Just that for different illnesses,
Yeah.
Doctors always talk about Mediterranean.
They do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think there is sometimes, patients will come to us saying, oh, doctor said Mediterranean, and sometimes they're a little confused on what exactly that means. And I really just start by saying it's really nothing magical. It's just a healthy eating way to eat. Good moderation. It's really including all of our healthy food groups. A little more emphasis on like olive oil and things like that. Maybe the salmon and some of the fatty fish that are really good too. But yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So like on fruits, is it more like a natural sugar?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
It seems like
It is. It is. I know. And we keep talking about fruit, So absolutely fruit would still need to be managed. Like we can't just eat all the fruit we want. And that's why that's why like Noom and Weight Watchers, like they say fruit is kind of like free or green, right? And it's like, that's where we have to make sure we still have to be careful with fruit, right? It's still carbohydrates, right? So the natural sugars in fruit certainly are, a form of carbohydrate, and can spike our blood sugar and give us those calories. Whereas like non-starchy vegetables are very, very low, naturally low. There are some carbohydrates, just not nearly as much as fruit. So we just treat it like a carb. We help you manage your carbs, whether it's fruit or bread or whatever carbs you're eating. It just has to be managed just like any other carb. But it is certainly a healthy type of carbohydrate food we want to be eating, because it carries a lot of other good things with it, right? So, yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something. And we hear sugar and we just think it's bad, but it is a natural form of sugar. It does have fiber, things like that. What we want to be careful with is the added sugars to food, that are added to condiments and salad dressings and just drinks, of course, and all sorts of things. But yeah, and then even the more processed sugars and even artificial sweeteners. I'm not a huge fan of too much of those either, but more research is needed on those too. Yeah. But yeah, good stuff. Well, I was told y'all were like, ask lots of questions and y'all are being so quiet. But it was nice to see you guys. Thanks for coming.